Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bitamount.com, BitamountLive.com, and P.O. Combs, Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Wednesday, August 25th. And I haven't done a midweek video now for a couple of months because there hasn't been much to talk about it, because in the summer months there haven't been a heck of a lot of great auctions going on in the broad sense. Things quiet down in the summer in Europe especially, and there's summer sales in the U.S., but not as many as we're going to see coming up in September and October when we get back more into the auction season, so to speak. But I did want to talk about a couple of sales that are coming up, and this is beyond just Chinese and Japanese art, but auctions in general. Some great looking antiques that I saw that are coming up, and I wanted to go over them. Also some very good reference books and some Chinese things, and we're going to get to those too. Some very rare Chinese things that are coming up in a sale. If you're into Chinese export and memorial wares, stick around. This is some really great pieces. But one of the things I wanted to start with, it's an auction house I don't know a lot about, is this company out west, Andrew Jones Auctions. I don't know much about them. They seem to have a mix, sort of a hodgepodge. They have some good antiques. They've got some copies, of course, and you know, like they all seem to these days. But one of the things I noticed in this series of sales coming up was that they have somebody who had a real interest in Chinese art back in the 70s and the 80s, and they bought some good books. All right, but before we get to them, I wanted to first mention this. These two mats, these Ningxia mats, are in this sale at Jones's in California. These are really nice. These are very, very sweet. It's a pair of them. They're in nice condition. There's still a good blue in them. If you like Chinese rugs and textiles, you might want to chase these. It's a pair of them. They've been sewn together, but I think they're really, really lovely. Lovely blue, lovely yellow. And these are fairly small, of course. These are like seat cushions. What are they? 2 by 6 feet sewn together. So, but they're nice size, you know, regardless. But they're very attractive, and the estimate is very low. All right, these should bring $800 to $1,200, but we'll see. There's a funny little mat they threw in with them. This one, and you could give that, put your dog's bowl on top of it. But this is nice. This is a really nice example. And the other thing I wanted to mention in this sale is this are 2 little Chinese articles. And this is for people that don't have a ton of money to spend, but these are 2 very nice things. The item on the left is an engraved metal tube. It looks like an incense stick holder from what I can see of it. It's probably late 19th century. And then there's this snuff box, carved snuff box with a beautiful patina on it. Absolutely beautiful patina. Great little box. If you like small carvings and interesting objects, this is a great little box. Could be an opium box too, judging by the way the lid's done on it. But nice carving, great little box, and very reasonably estimated. $100 to $200 estimate. It's got one bid. If you could pick these 2 up for under $300, you're doing pretty well. And again, this is Andrew Jones in Los Angeles, and the sale is coming up in a couple of weeks. You can find them on Live Auctioneers or just Google them. Nice looking thing. But what I wanted to get to was this. In this sale are several sets of books, and I like sets of these old books, and this is a particularly good one. This is the Chinese Ceramics of the Topkapi Sari Museum. This book was originally published by Sotheby's. It's they come, as you can see, in slip cases. And they're broken down by period, Yuan Ming Dynasty Celadon wares, Yuan Ming Dynasty porcelains in general, and then Qing Dynasty porcelains. And the Topkapi Museum in Istanbul has one of the great Chinese porcelain collections in the world. It's been studied. It's been heavily documented. There's a long history. It started with the Yuan Dynasty, the Mongols, doing trade to the Middle East when the Chinese Empire went all the way to Asia. And these are some of the trade goods that came in. It's beautifully illustrated, worth buying. And this set typically sells for $2,000 or $3,000. It's got a $300 to $400 estimate. If you're looking to build your library, this is a winner. All of these books I'm going to show you are absolutely great to own. The next one is this, and I have all of them, by the way. I've owned all of these books since they were first published. The Sotheby's book came out a long time ago. It was, what was it, 1986 that came out. And then the next one is this book here. the Chinese porcelains in the Near East, from the Topkapi and the Artable Shrine by Mitsugi. And this is an absolutely great set that came out. I bought this when it first came on the market. I still have it. I still use it. It's got beautifully done, tipped in photographs, mechanically tipped in, so the pictures are actually attached to the pages in many cases. And there's some absolutely great photographs inside the Topkapi, old photographs of how the stuff, these porcelains, you won't believe it. They were stacked up like cordwood. They were stuffed into bins because the mosques sort of fell into disrepair around 120 years ago, and the porcelains that were brought in were sort of just shoved off and in the basement until somebody started to realize what a treasure it was, and they cleaned the place up. They got it organized. It's very, very nice. It's a really lovely collection. But this is a great book to have also. It's estimated very reasonably, $100 to $150. It normally sells for, I think, in this $500 to $800 range. And it's a superb book. It just doesn't sell for as much as the Sotheby edition, but it's equally as good. All right, and then on to this one. This is the famous China for the West, Chinese porcelain for export. That was this was the heirs. It's a Sotheby's Park Bernay thing, and let's see here. Oh, that's right, the Motoheda collection. And the Motohedas they ended up creating the company that makes the reproductions of Chinese export porcelain. But they had one of the great Chinese export collections in the world, and this was written by David Howard and John Ayres. And David Howard and John Ayres are two of the top, most famous researchers of Chinese export porcelain, armorial wares, and all that. And this was one of their sets that they put out. It's a very hard to find book. It was done in the 70s, right? 1978. I got it right after it came out, probably in '79. And it should bring, $800 to $1,200, something like that anyway. And lastly is this, Imperial Silks of the Silks of the Qing Dynasty. If you're into robes and you don't have this book, absolutely get it. It was published by the Minneapolis Institute of Art a number of years ago, back 20 years ago in 2000. I bought it then. I think I paid $100 for it or something. It is heavily illustrated. These are big books. These are coffee table sized books. Lots of illustrations of all different types of robes, silk accoutrements. It's incredibly well illustrated and very well written and full of information. If you're interested in Chinese silk robes and textiles, this is like the Bible. You really want to own this book, set of books. And estimated $120 to $180. Chase it down. I don't know what they'll bring. I haven't followed the prices on these, but eventually these are going to become very expensive because they're not going to do a reprint. Art books, just so everybody understands, if you didn't know, a lot of you know this, but art books are often never reprinted. They do one run of 2,000 to 4,000 or 5,000 copies. Often Yale Press or some big organization does them because there's no profit in them really for them. They don't make money doing these. These are done to share and inform the collector and fan market. And then once they're done, they're done. And even the British Museum, the great book Ming Porcelain that everybody wants to own, that I have a copy. I think I just saw a copy of it recently sell for $1,400, and that book new was around $70 around 20 years ago. Because they're not going to reprint it, and that's what happens. So these are some great books, and these are going to be sold in a couple of weeks at Andrew Jones in Los Angeles. So check that out. All right, if you're interested in the books. Now, onto the sales, onto these auctions that are coming up. This is Brunk's, and many of you are familiar with Brunk's, and those of you that aren't, you ought to get to know them. It's a good auction house. I think they're one of the nicest, best auction houses in the United States. As far as their overall operation goes, I became familiar with them over 20 years ago. I used to buy Chinese things there when nobody knew about them, and we did very well with Brunk's over the years. And because they didn't know much about it, but they were interested, and they have a son that worked at Christie's. He was trained there. He came back, and he spoiled all the fun by bringing in a lot of experts. But they're nice people. I shouldn't say that. They're nice people, and they run a good shop, and I recommend them often to people in that area that are looking to auction an estate or collections of things sometimes, just because they're they're on top of it. I recommend somebody do them this morning, as a matter of fact, who lives in Virginia. But this sale is very interesting because it has a lot of very good American furniture and English furniture in it. Some really great examples, some very, very fine paintings, and some of the best armorial porcelain I've seen around in a long time. A couple of the pieces were bought from, they were bought from Moog, one of the great dealers from Atlanta over for many, 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 many years. The Chinese porcelain company that was run by Khalil Rizk until he died a decade or so ago. Some really, really good sources, and the collections in this auction look like they came some very, very fine estates. And we're going to take a look at a few of the things in it. It just struck me as being pretty wonderful. One of the things I wanted to point out was, if you're interested in Chinese porcelain, you want to check out the Brunk sale section on Dutch Delft, because what you're going to find in here are a lot of pieces that were done in Holland that were emulating Chinese porcelain, which is a fascinating study. And you have things like this jar here on the right, which is a tea caddy that you see often done in Chinese porcelain in a very similar style during the Kangxi period. Very, very similar shape. The Dutch even copied the diaper pattern somewhat, and they had this flat sort of flange top with the neck coming up and so forth. And so if you have a Kangxi example and you want to have the Dutch version to see how it was treated in trade, this is a good one. It has lots of old stickers. Exhibited the Art Institute of Chicago at one point, and these stickers are legit. Okay, it's not like the phony stickers you see on a lot of Chinese porcelain these days. These look completely legit, and a good collection, and they have a good write-up on these. These were done just around the end of the Kangxi period, because that's where the inspiration for them came from. And let's see what else is in here. We'll go back one. There. You'll see bowls like this, very Chinese in shape and style. The fish plates. These are all done in pottery, of course. They're not done with lead glazes. They're not done in porcelain. They didn't know how to make porcelain at this time in Holland. And this bottle vase, very similar to the Chinese examples. Then you have this form here, which you've all seen in Kangxi porcelains and Cafe and Batavia wares, which is they were made as sugar pots originally. People often say, "What are those for?" They were made in China, and they were used in Europe once they got their sugar pots. And then the Delft potters began copying them. Then you have this covered reticulated sort of censer or flower bowl here. It's all open work like a Chinese bowl with a cover. All right. And then you have these landscape blue and white bowls, and the punch bowl looks very Chinese. A lot of them do. This one is done like a transitional ware bottle vase with a cup form mouth, and the fish plate with the manganese iron decorated ground. These are absolutely beautiful, and there's a couple of them. I like the fish one a lot. Then you have this one with the Chinese sort of a lotus panel that's on it with flowers all decorated on it, obviously done in the manner of Chinese work. They date these to about 1740 to 1760, which is about right, and so forth. And it's a very interesting collection. To have these that look like the Chinese ones, and if you own the Chinese ones that match up to it, it's pretty great. Years ago, there's a house here on the North Shore, and the collection is still there. I went to the house to look at one thing that they had, and the lady said, "Oh, you like Chinese porcelain? Let me show you something." And they were from Holland originally, a generation earlier. And she had two bent glass curio cabinets on the third floor of the house. There was a study. It was sort of a big mansion. And you walked through the door, and on the right side there was a cabinet, on the left side there was a cabinet. And when you turned around and looked back at them, the cabinet on the right side, it was filled with Kangxi blue and white pieces of all types and shapes and styles, probably 40 or 50 pieces in that one. And on the left, it mirrored all of the exact same pieces in Delft. And they were in the same positions on the shelves. So it looked like a pair set of a collection, except that the ones on the left were Delft and the one on the right were all Chinese. And it was an absolutely wonderful collection. And she said, "What should I do with it?" It was kind of funny. And I said, "Keep it together, whatever you do. Find a collector who wants to own all of it, because it's that good of a collection." And these are all top-notch Kangxi pieces, but they weren't just junky. They were absolutely great. But at any rate, they're very. I was very thrilled to see it. And we go on, and there's also some very good portraits in here, some great mirrors, salt glazed, these English tankards and so forth. If you're into that kind of thing, they're absolutely beautiful, and they're not inexpensive. These things go in the thousands of dollars, like good Chinese porcelain. There's a lot of nice silver and whatnot in this sale. And also some very good paintings. One of my favorite painters is this fellow, Alfred Thompson Britcher. Over the years, I've had a few of his paintings. I had one that I kept for a number of years that I picked up at an auction in Maine many years ago. And he was sort of a formula painter, but he absolutely had it down to a science. A lot of these artists back then, these itinerant artists, regional artists, they painted similar scenes over and over and over again. And Alfred Britcher was famous for painting these scenes with ocean, rocks, beach, and sometimes with boats. And sometimes it was reversed. He'd put the land on the right side and the ocean on the left side with different types of boats, maybe no boats, cloudy skies, sunny skies, and that sort of thing. This is a particularly nice one. This one is one where they got somebody's taking down their sails, and there's some nice, beautifully done gaff-rigged boats out here in the horizon. It's a rather glass calm day in close to shore, but out further you can see the ocean's a bit darker, which means it's a little bit windier, so they could pick up some wind for their sails. And a nice little beach here, gentle little beach with tiny little waves. Probably the coast of Maine or northern New England, northern Massachusetts. I don't know if it says where he painted this one. He was from New York originally. They just say it was this one sold at Christie's, New York in November 2014 for $62,000. All right, so there's an opportunity for you. It's right now. It's got a $35,000 to $55,000 estimate. It's a wonderful painting. I can see why it brought that much money. I bought mine back in the day for under $3,000, and did well when I sold it, but hung on to it for a number of years, and I had bought and sold a few others over the years I liked. But I like Britcher's work a lot. I like coastal paintings. And also in this sale is one of the icons of the Audubon portfolios is the American turkey. Those of you that are into this kind of thing know about these Audubon big large folio Audubon prints, estimated at $40,000 to $60,000, colored by Havel. These are heavily sought after, and I suspect it'll do quite well. This one and the American Eagle do particularly well in auctions, obviously, for obvious reasons. All right, and also this. Those of you that I just happen to like Native American baskets, and I like Apache baskets, in particular the ones that are pictorial. And this is a very nice one. It's a rather choice little basket with human and quadruped forms on it, and these geometric patterns. I just think these are nice. They have a great feel to them, a great look. And you don't have to be an expert on them to appreciate just how nice they really are. And there's a picture of the bottom to give you a sense of how well done the coiling on this basket was done. The interior looks nice and clean, and the ink with the colored work and the material looks good. It's not frayed. There's no tears in it, and in the weaving or anything. Nice and tight still. It is dirty. You can see the dirt in here, and if you're thinking of getting it cleaned up, don't hire a professional to do it for you. You don't want to ruin it. All right, and then over here to American Furniture. American Furniture took a horrible beating in value after the 1990s, as many of you know, and great pieces of American furniture just plummeted in value. So much for the argument that antiques are always a great investment. However, this sale got the mother lode of New England, in particular, rare forms of Connecticut furniture. Some really rare examples, and this is one of them. This is one of the rarest types of highboys that were ever done, or Queen Anne high chests, with this step top. Highly unusual, very indicative of Connecticut workmanship, and then the fan carving at the bottom. And these are quite large, as you know. This thing is probably around 6 or 7 feet tall. How tall is this thing? Now that I've said that, 80 inches. So it's a little under 7 feet tall, but a very attractive piece of furniture, estimated at $12,000 to $18,000. Now, in the 1990s, this chest probably would have brought $70,000 to $100,000. All right, I would just guess. And then this one, a closed bonnet top, Connecticut highboy, again with these spectacular scrolled feet, beautifully colored wood. These are all 18th century chests. This was probably made around 17. I'm going to say 1770. Is it? They give it a date? 1770 to 1780. There you go. I haven't forgotten. We used to sell stuff like this when I ran the auction business. We used to get things like this, and this is a wonderful, wonderful example. Beautifully done shell at the bottom, original feet. Because the feet on American furniture is always a sensitive issue because it's often broken and replaced and fooled with, and these appear to be the original feet on it. And but just wonderful craftsmanship all the way up through, including these very signature little volutes right below the flaming twisted central the center flame, so to speak, and absolutely great piece of American furniture. And then over here is another one, and this is another wanky thing. Connecticut furniture has some sort of wanky, oddball styles that they did, and this is one of the most I've seen in a while. Is this crazy sort of OG bracket foot base here with these big returns. These are called returns. These little areas that curl back in, but just all heavily worked, very very enthusiastically done, with this very large shaped overhanging top. And then these reeded columns, which you see on Connecticut furniture, you see it on Pennsylvania furniture. And the hardware looks like it's been moved around on it a bit. There you see shadows of old hardware up the middle. The hardware may have been taken off, and these are original. I don't know. You'd have to pull the drawers and get a good look at it, but it's not really the point. The point is that they're beautifully done. I suspect they originally had center pulls, and at some little later date they added pairs of poles, which became more stylish. That's just my guess. But very attractive, nice old base on it. Appears to be original, good color, and so forth. You always need to flip these over to examine the bases to make sure it's original, but that's how you do it. And the top looks obviously, untouched. It's got some scratches in it and all that. Love all of that. That's just keep it just the way it is. And I think this one is reasonably estimated at $10,000 to $15,000 for such a wonky piece of great piece of 18th century American furniture. I think this is probably from Litchfield or from Western Massachusetts. The Berkshire area. They did do some stuff like this. I'm going to bet it's more likely from northwestern Connecticut, but that's just my personal take on it. But wonderful old surface. An old surface is a king on American furniture, even now. And speaking of old surfaces, this piece is a killer. This has its original, looks to have its original red paint finish on it, a red wash. And if you, they're missing little rosettes probably that sat on here. But if you check the surface on these old pieces of furniture, you'll find this very fine sort of alligating or crackling in the paint. You can see it here, over in this area here, the way the surface has that sort of dry, tight finish to it, and that is usually the old original finish that's just sort of curled up with age. But this looks like one heck of a piece of furniture. Here's the side of the drawers, all nicely dovetailed the way they did them back then. Thin sideboards and so forth, and then the interior wood on these were often not finished very well. They were just sort of rough sanded down and smoothed out. And there's the base of it. Whether or not these returns are original to it, I'm not sure. Often these drops are replaced, but the legs look very, very good. Wonderful ball and claw feet. Nice volute returns up here on the top of the legs. There's the ball and claw foot, very nice and tight. Heck of a nice piece of furniture. And I hope this isn't boring everybody. This is they estimate they figure this was probably made in the Woodbury, Connecticut area, and they do a nice long description of it, and other public pieces of it. It's estimated at $40,000 to $60,000, and there was a day when this was probably a $250,000 to $350,000 piece of furniture. But as I said, the prices have come down. It's got a starting bid of $20,000. If you're looking for a really great piece of American furniture out of all the pieces we just looked at, this is the one you want to buy. It's got the original color. It's a very advanced form, beautifully carved, and looks absolutely wonderful. I love that kind of stuff. And then lastly is another one, probably from the same area, also Woodbury, with a bonnet drawer in the bottom here. This big drawer in the bottom, and slightly less developed. I like it. It's very, very nice. I don't think it's as good as the other one, though it does have a very, very fancy base on it. Again, it's got that Connecticut base that we saw in the first one. This was a style of base that they did do only in that area, as far as I know. You never see that in a Boston piece or a New York piece or any other. Absolutely great, $20,000 to $30,000. I think this has been probably refinished at some point in its life, but still one heck of a nice piece of furniture. All right, and that's the kind of thing that Bronx has going on. It's really worth looking at. And then lastly, in the furniture lineup is this really great Irish Chippendale table. Irish Chippendale furniture, Irish furniture, it can be very gutsy and very enthusiastic, so to speak. And they tended to exaggerate things like the shape, the way the skirt is done, with these big shell carvings and these beautifully done legs coming down. And then these fabulously faceted slipper feet like boots that go on. They did all kinds of different forms and styles, but this is a wonderful looking table. Of course, it's all handmade and all that, and nice old surface on it, and made from imported mahogany, which was quite unusual for a long time, because they didn't import a lot of mahogany to England at one point, because there was this big fight with the walnut growers over there. They didn't want mahogany imported because it would hurt their business. Then as soon as they began to run low on walnut, suddenly the walnut growers became mahogany importers around the middle of the 18th century. But at any rate, this was probably made around 1750 to 1770, I would guess. They don't really say, did they just say 18th century on here? Came from a Georgia collection. Nice table, $3,000 to $5,000 estimate. Absolutely great thing. $1,500 opening bid. Get a condition report just like you do with porcelain, but handsome piece of furniture. And you know, couldn't you just see this with a nice big Chinlung punch bowl sitting right in the middle of it, or something like that? Just absolutely great. And then moseying along over is this. There's a very nice carpet in this sale. This is a Bijar Kilim. It's a pileless rug, flat weave rug, but beautiful, beautiful colors, with a $600 to $900 estimate. But wonderful colors, wonderful rich colors on this. It looks to be in very, very nice condition all the way down. Looks like it's got some age to it. Here's a nice detail of it, superbly well woven. And this is fairly decent size. It's 4 by 7 feet. They call it early 20th century, and that means it was woven between 1900 and 1920, which is about right. The Bijar weavers were legendary in Iran or in Persia, and they were some of the best weavers in the Middle East. And they did piled rugs, of course, and they did flat weaves. So if you're looking for a great looking rug for an area in your house, or to hang on the wall like a tapestry, that's the thing to look at. And moving over here is into the Chinese stuff in the sale. Is this very, very nice port painting, port scene here. I forget which scene this is, and I used to know it by this building, by the fort. But do they have it in the descriptions? Pearl River, Dutch Folly Fort. There it is, Dutch Folly Fort. And what they did here, which was very handy, was they blacklit it and took a photograph of it, so you can see where the painting has been, where it's been touched up over the years. And you can see here and here, it had some scratches and losses that have been filled in. But for a Chinese export painting, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And here's some scenes of the close-ups of the people in the junk, very typical. And so forth of the river. Nicely done, colorful boat with its banners out, and the back of the painting. Let's see here. Looks like it's probably been relined. Let's see. We'll go through these. See if they show the back. Yeah, it's been put on a new canvas so that it remains stable. That looks like the original stretcher though, which is pretty nice. And estimated, I think, fairly reasonably, $3,000 to $5,000 for this nice old China trade painting from the 19th century. And then hopping over here to this is some of the great armorial stuff that's in this sale. Still at Bronx. The Bishop of Porto plate. Those of you who aren't familiar with this, if you go digging around, you'll see that this pattern is a favorite among the very, very fine, the best of the European porcelain dealers, Santos and all those people. Just an absolutely great thing. It has to do with the Porto bishop of the Catholic Church, and Porto is in on the northern coast of Portugal. Any rate, and this is a beautiful example, and it looks to be in absolutely outstanding condition. Absolutely outstanding condition, done during the Chai-Ching period. They dated accurately to about 1810, which is what everybody dates them as. So there's some history on when they knew the service was made for the church and for the bishop. And there's the heraldic shield on there for him. But absolutely wonderful coloring, very unusual coloring. I saw a platter in this pattern once, a big platter in this pattern once, and I think it was $15,000 or $20,000 last time I remember. At any rate, this is estimated $800 to $1,200, and this one was sold by the Chinese Porcelain Company on Madison Avenue in New York. They're still there, but the Chinese Porcelain Company was the brainchild of a great guy named Khalil Rizk. And he was sort of a groundbreaker in the Asian art community. He was originally from Lebanon, from Beirut, and he came to New York and he had a lot of family money, and he wanted to go into the art business, and he went in a big way, and built a beautiful gallery, and was very generous with his knowledge and his time, and his customers loved him very, very much, and regrettably he passed away a number of years ago. The company's still there, but it was when he was there. He brought in a lot of interesting new painters, modern Chinese painters, Chinese art in general. He also sold European furniture and other things as well. But he was a real fan of Chinese porcelain, and absolutely a wonderful guy. And this was sold by him, not surprisingly. And then this was sold. I don't know if they say who this was sold by. It's in the David Sanctuary Howard's book, the Arms of Izod. And this was a British clan, and not the alligator shirt people. This is originated, I believe, in Gloucestershire. In around the 10th century. It's one of the oldest families in England, and they've spread out. There's a number of clans of the Izod family, but this is an absolutely beautiful Yongchen example. These lovely soft colors up here. This is the decoration on this is as good as anything you're ever going to see on a piece of imperial porcelain from the period. Absolutely great, and a rather rare plate with a very modest estimate, $1,000 to $2,000, a $500 opening bid, and they only say it comes from a private collection in Georgia. And see David Sanctuary Howard, Chinese Armorial Porcelain, Volume 1, published in London in 1974. And you can look it up and read up on it if you have that set of books. And then over here is another pair of armorial. There's a bunch of armorial ware in this sale. I'm just going through a few of the pretty ones. And there's another couple of pairs here. They didn't look them up, but I'm sure that they're in Howard's book. And another one with a bowl and a plate, estimated at $300 to $500. Think about that. 1770s Qianlong porcelain, superb quality with a very modest estimate, and beautifully decorated. Absolutely beautiful quality, a cup and bowl set. And it has one bid at $150, and if you pay $600 for it, that's fine too. These could bring a lot more. And then also in the sale, they've got some good rugs. This one struck me as being particularly nice, an early 20th century Heriz. It's room size 9 by 12. It's a beast with a modest estimate, $1,000 to $2,000. I think it'll bring more than that. I think it'll probably bring $3,000 to $5,000 anyway. But beautiful soft colors, that beautiful salmon tones you see here. The pile looks good. I don't see, you don't see low spots anywhere on this beast. Looks good. It looks like when they cropped the picture here, they might have trimmed some of the fringe off, but the fringe I suspect is there. And but overall, very, very nice. No staining. An absolutely beautiful room size rug. Absolutely beautiful. If you could buy that for under $4,000 or $5,000, it's really something. It almost looks like a serape. No, it's a Heriz. Okay. But a beautiful carpet. Absolutely beautiful. It's got 6 bids. It's up to $1,600, and I suspect it's got a ways to go. But what a pretty rug! And also the Kazakh. a very nice Kazakh sort of small runner, measuring 3 feet 8 inches by almost 7 feet, 6'9". Again, nice condition, nice pile, very soft, warm colors down the outer side, the inside, and the interior is filled with these little boat head devices up the middle, which you see on Persian carpets and textiles all the time, and on Caucasian pieces. And this is a Caucasian piece. Estimated at $800 to $1,200, very reasonable. $400, got one bid so far. All right, but it could bring $1,500 or to $2,000, $2,500. But it's a beautiful rug, looks to be in good condition. The thing with rugs is always to look at the pile. If they're worn down to the foundation, you really want to rethink it, unless you're planning on getting it repiled and getting it professionally restored, which you can do. It's expensive. But you can certainly do it, and a lot of the rugs get sent. Sometimes they send them to Turkey to get big jobs done, but they tend to wear through. Once they're down to the cotton, you're going to be walking on the wood floor or whatever you have underneath it pretty soon if it's in a busy area. But at any rate, this is not that problem. So this and that Harries are two great-looking rugs. And check out the rest of the Bronx sale. This is sort of the end of it. It's just I thought it would be fun to do something different than the regular Chinese-only or Asian-only video. And I like other forms of antiques. My wife and I have always had a pretty wide range of antiques in our home, and paintings and whatnot, just because it makes for an interesting room. And you can do the same. There's no reason not to. And you need furniture. You want to broaden out a little bit. Look at some of the Dutch Delft and see how it might fit in with your Chinese collection, just for the fun of it. All right. Thanks for watching. This is, like I said, this is something I normally don't do, but I thought it might be fun. And if you like it, leave a comment. Maybe we'll do more of them as sales come up that I like, and so forth. And we'll do them for the fun of it during the middle of the week. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back Friday with the regular video, and enjoy the last few weeks of summer here. We're down to the home stretch. And by the way, for those of you wondering, we didn't get the hurricane on over the weekend that they were expecting. It didn't come. It never came. We were expecting it. It went sharply west, turned, died, and we got a little bit of rain, and that was it. We had taken in the boats. A lot of people took their boats out of the water. We put away all our patio furniture and stuff because we didn't want to see that go sailing off and hitting somebody's house. And nothing happened. It just rained. And that's the way it is, you know. So anyway, see you all later this week. Thanks. Bye-bye.